Hi, it's Paul from Mode 7 here again, and today I'm going to be looking at some UI stuff. Now, what I'm doing here is just sort of surveying the game as it is now in order for us to do a UI pass next week. And I thought I'd share some of this with you just so that I could get some of your input. If you see something that you think is terrible or there's something that you're concerned about that might be difficult to do in the game, let me know and we'll incorporate it into our work next week. Now, the first thing to point out is that the performance of the city map is greatly improved. I'm not sure if my setup will be recording this particularly well, but in general now we have 60 FPS when stuff is happening on the map. It doesn't even dip that much when that's irrelevant story stuff. It doesn't even dip that much when you fast forward the map super quickly. So let's see if I do that and we get any squads happening. Come on, squads. Yes, okay, there's a squad. So let's just see. I can now go in, take a look at what this squad is. It's just a squad. Examining the squad, I can see it's got a religious educator in it, so I know that Blue Sunlight are off to do something. Now, what we're going to be doing is labeling these squads with names that are a bit more indicative of what they're doing. We don't have any information down here on what that mission is currently. So now that I've got the squad selected, I can show you some of the stuff that we're thinking about. So the general paradigm for this is that you select something, and then in this window here, you get information about it. Now, because I have basically developer mode on, I can see the contents of the squad. Eventually, there will be some options that allow you to see and get more intelligence about particular kind of enemy activities. But for the moment, you wouldn't be able to see that normally. So I have the squad selected, and I would hit interact, and then we get this screen here, which enables me to send the squad to their current location. I'll be able to call them, and I'll be able to intercept them. So the squad will just go, my squad will just go to a place where they can intercept them. Now, what I'm thinking for this window currently is, obviously this is just a mess. This would display the location information if they were in a location. Currently, they're just on the road. So that would need to be sorted out. But my plan is to basically keep this flow. So you select a thing, you select a squad, or you select a building. Then you go through this interact button, which will be a nice graphical button like the prime button as a big target. Then this pane will be the same size as these, and it won't get rid of the rest of the UI. So it will just come up. It will enable you to pick an option. So if I picked send squad here, we go to the squad screen. Now, again, we will probably keep this like it is. We'll probably move this close button over here. One issue with this screen is that this button here is the button that deploys the squad. And we have originally decided to make this a different icon, so make it clear that that's kind of the go button. What I think I might do is put a big deploy button here as well, or perhaps sort of in this array, just so that it's really obvious. You then have a really obvious target to go to. So that flow, I think, is okay if everything is sort of staying in place and it's ergonomic. So that should be more ergonomic. That's an easy thing to do. And then here we get to manage the squads as well as choose which one to deploy. Now, one thing I was thinking of doing was perhaps just having this turn into a list of squads, and then you just click from the list. But then that means that you can't reorganize your squad. So if I have a bunch of squads at base, what I can do is I can just do stuff like this, which is really nice UI. I can just drag, I'm dragging units from the same squad there. I can drag units from other squads into here. I can rename the squad Cool Squad 1994. And then I kind of know what I'm doing a bit more. So now I can send them off in order to get them started on the mission. And we get a label there indicating where their mission is. Okay, so Blue Sunlight have started their mission, the thing we're calling Ventures. So they're doing religious education here, and there might be some factions that object to that and might want me to stop it, or the district might object to it and want me to stop it. Here's the district map. One thing I do want to do is label these districts, but you can see that's very sort of emphatically in the middle of this one over here. So what I can do then is select this venture, which selects the building again. This camera track squad thing will be inside the interact menu. I don't like mixing, and this call thing, I don't like mixing up information and actions on this screen when you have such a big directed kind of flow through this interact button. So again, I'm just going to send Cool Squad 94 over there. And that sort of seems fine. So that's the basic way that we interface with the city. One thing that I've just remembered that probably does need work is the way you select intersections. So you can send your squad to intersections. I think that functionally that seems fine to me. Like, you can just select it. The little graphical thing there is not particularly good, so that probably needs an asset. Yeah, but that's generally okay. I mean, not being able to select, having you select any point on the road, I think would be annoying. So you can select intersections and then you go through the same flow. So although this is a bit ugly at the moment, well, a lot ugly, it seems okay. What do you think about this deploy issue? That would be something that would be really useful to get feedback on. Like, should it be a big button here or should it be this? So we currently use, we currently use this method to select the squads. I mean, this button does allow you to deploy the squad without having to select it. So you can just really quickly come through here and then bosh this. But ultimately, perhaps it would be better to have a deploy button there as well, and then you get the best of both worlds. This window is not that pleasing to me, but it's also very functional. You can have infinite squads here with the scroll bar. You can have currently only have up to 6 units, I believe, in a squad. Actually, if I select that squad, interact. Oh no, that's interesting. So that's changed, I think. Can I select the squad? Find in city. That's just a bug, I think. Okay, we can return them to base. I'm going to return them to base. Oops. And I'm going to return them to base as well. That's fine. They're arriving at the HQ. And then what I can do here is, I'm just going to check on the maximum squad number. Okay, so we've got 6. Now that is a pain. That is a pain, and that's not ideal. So what we might need to do is try to make it so that this can fit 6 on, and then we can get rid of this potentially, which will make that a bit nicer. So that's fine. Let's take a look through some of the screens. So we have the main map screen here, which is this, and is kind of nice and clear and functional. You have these nice icons down here with the mouse over text. These are going to be the different views. So as I've shown you the district view, this is shape control, which is very unclear at the moment. Shape control basically gives you a visual impression of the faction's influence in the city and the areas where the local militias are more likely to support them. If you go there, then there might be extra units supporting them. These will eventually be icons with mouse over in the same style as well, so you'll just be able to select them. Available funds, and that should be relics, not artifacts, will be icons too. So this will all be tucked away in a neater thing up here. This is the services screen, which is very prototypey and is going to change. These are all the different things that your faction relies on. So, for example, there's ammunition and fuel. This will be a screen similar to squads, where each thing is just a selectable item, because the only thing you need to do with it is change it. So if I select Bernard's bullets, or Bernard's bullets, if you're from certain parts of the world, what I can do here is just select which service provider I want. So this just needs tidying up. And again, this doesn't need to be a button. These should be selectable items. That should be fine. The faction screen. So this has had some early work done to it. This is currently appearing in the wrong place, which is interesting. And so this is going to be a bunch of selectable objects for the factions that we're going to be nice and clear and kind of come up on this side and replace everything there. And then you'll get further info here. And these buttons will allow you to select that info. So this just needs kind of a restructure. But that seems pretty clear. These will need to be tabs, so it's clear which ones you have open. But that's fine. These need aligning and formatting. And then you can call the leader from this screen. So this here eventually is going to be a graph of their progress over time. So you can see how they've been doing just generally over time. And yeah, now this is interesting because I had originally planned for this to be a secondary screen which just comes up when the faction is selected, rather than having this thing here simultaneously. So that's going to be something that we have to look at. But I think that could be okay. I can imagine this. I can imagine this being there. So one of the issues here is that you have to zoom to buildings. Oh, okay. So that's why this has been put in to kind of frame this. So I guess the question here really is, should this be a separate subscreen per faction that comes up, or should we maintain this thing of keeping it on both sides of the screen currently? That is the question that we'll have to answer. But this is really nice. Like the list of their buildings now is really clear. The list of their squads now is really clear. We don't have economic information on them yet. And this is the list of their relationships. So this is a lot better than what we had before. It's certainly a lot nicer. The relics total, I think, will either have to be, yeah, the same as this military strength indicator, or something similar. Anyway, so we are definitely getting there with this, but there is this conundrum about the separate screens. Okay, so this is the screen is just being redone. This is going to give you economic information on your faction, and it should be pretty straightforward and clear. It's just going to kind of come up in this area and give you economic information in a table. And the squad screen we talked about already. The mercenary market is very straightforward. You did have a thing where you would get additional information and sort of biography of the mercenary. We're not going to have time to do that. So all that will be here is them, their name, and then if you want to purchase one, you'll select it. That will go through to this screen. And then again, you'll select the squad into which you wish to deposit the mercenary. So that will be how that works. The contract screen, again, this is one of these split sides thing. I'm currently planning to unify this and make it one thing. But we'll see how that goes down eventually as well. And yeah, that do let me know your ideas on this split thing. Similarly, the goals screen, this is something that kind of allows you to figure out how to do more complex interactions. So instead of just sort of reading a text help, you will get sort of information from here that will enable you to kind of hit these specific goals as you start the game. That's a little bit in progress right now. So that's the city UI. You've got the transport controls down here, which are very straightforward. All this stuff is going to be going into a single menu. That's the city UI. So if you've got any opinions on that or anything that you're kind of concerned about, then do let me know. One thing we are going to be doing is showing incursions happening. So when an incursion lands, you'll have an effect around the building that will make it a lot clearer. We might be tidying up some of these buildings. So these are ruined buildings, which I think look too prominent. That color stands out too much. And finally, with ventures, so we'll just fast forward and hopefully see some more ventures happening. Okay. Lots of things going on now. Yeah, so the banking faction Diamond Brothers are repossessing some property there. So what I do want to have is something come up on the map when that's happening to make it clear that these little missions are happening. And it'll probably just be a color or a little highlight. If you had all, big icons everywhere, it would get even more confusing. I can generally tell which buildings are which from the icons, like these purple ones are guest buildings. And that is, what is that? That's the, that's parcel tossers. Yes, I should have picked ones that I actually know. There's a shape node, there's the courthouse, and so on. Yes, fabricator buildings. So the extent to which minor factions are represented on the map is something that we need to look at as well. I think there's some prioritization stuff there. Cool. All right, that is the end of the map screen. I'm going to show you some in-level stuff shortly. Right, looking at in-level stuff. So the first thing to look at is deployment, which we've improved substantially. So you can still drag your units around, which is fine. You'll also get now shaded areas to show where you can and can't put them. So you'll be able to anticipate that a bit. But you don't just have to drag them. You can select them from this and then just drop them somewhere. So this is really useful for sort of picking exactly where you want your units to go. And you can also still drag them around. So in the first turn, you can start making a plan for them and go, actually, no, I kind of want to deploy here. Or you can kind of pick them up again and drop them with this. So that's nice and flexible and a big improvement over what we had before. The things I'm thinking of doing are having a sequential deployment thing. So you just click on it and then you go bang, 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 and you can just position your units anywhere. Or a generally deploy squad button. So you click on the generally deploy squad button, you click somewhere and then they kind of appear around that. I think those are two things that are needed, because if you have a big map, this one isn't particularly big, but if I want to deploy over here, to do that now I have to kind of go like this, and that's too laborious. I just want to just stick everything down there. So some work to do there, but Ian's done a really good job on refining that and making it a lot more user-friendly. Let's just quickly take a look at some of the order stuff now. So there's some really interesting stuff here. Aiming, when you aim now, so I'm going to create an aim and select it, the aim now disappears into this nice small order. So before, you would have this displayed the whole time, and things would get cluttered really quickly, especially if you were kind of here and you were aiming like this. Now, if you deselect that, you just get this small aim, which is, although that is overlapping something still, it is a lot easier to handle. So we like that. Another change that's happened is plan overlap, which is something I really like. So if I made a plan like this, before, what would happen would be that I would just get a load of overlapping lines and I wouldn't know what to select. Now what happens is the game overlays these layers on top of each other. So I can actually make a plan that goes over like this, and then I can select the layers with the up-down layer button. Now, something that's Cheshire, one of our fantastic community members and friends and testers, thanks Cheshire, pointed out, is that it's hard to know which direction this is going in. So we probably need to do something for that to increase the directionality of it. But this is a massive, massive improvement. Look, I can even make an order and drag it around on the plan without it sort of conflicting with all these other plan lines. That's going to be really good for doing, much more kind of complicated plans. So a really, really, really good solution there, I think. Now, the final thing is something that's still a work in progress, and the UI for this is currently broken, which is a bit annoying, but to do that, I need to prime a turn. So this is one of the major problems with the Frozen Synapse UI, which is what do I do when there are two units overlapping? Now, the game has to allow units to overlap. It's literally impossible to change that in its current form. In order to change that, we would have to make a new game. So the solution to this is do not allow units to overlap. That's a decision that has to be made at the start of game development, not 15 years into it. So here we have this UI, which enables you to select units once they're overlapping. Now, it currently doesn't work for a reason that I'm not sure about, but what would happen here, if these two units were overlapping, I would be able to click down here and select the other one, and I would be able to sort of disambiguate like that. And that really is an enormous improvement. It's not sort of like the most perfect and elegant way of solving that problem, but it is at least a functional solution to it. When I'm clicked away, if I want to still sort of pixel hunt and try and find the unit, I can do that. But as soon as I get into this overlap state, then I can click. And the good thing about this is it supports, if you have a lot of units together, it does support selecting them before. In Frozen Synapse 1, you just literally couldn't. You would have to kind of fudge around and use tab to sort of select the individual unit, and then it was just horrendous. So that is a solution to that problem, which we found to be quite practical. Obviously, this UI needs to make sense. These buttons are all going to be nice. We're going to get rid of this green thing and tidy it up. This mini map's going to get a backing. This thing is going to work, and this menu is going to collapse into a single button that will open that menu. So those are the things that we're doing in the level. I don't think we're planning to do anything else. There's been a bit of an adjustment. This is very placeholder to this order, the weight order. This is going to be a box eventually that displays that number. You're not going to have the number sort of sticking out to the side. So it's going to be a lot clearer there. General tweaks, we're kind of looking at how easy it is to use the UI when it's zoomed out, because obviously this is, these 1 pixel targets are completely horrific. Whether we'll be able to solve that or the amount of it that we'll be able to mitigate, I don't know. So yes, if there's anything glaring that you think we've missed out, perhaps if you've played Frozen Synapse 1 and you need to ask us about that, you can do. We were thinking about maybe making the deployment UI a permanent element, so you could kind of click to select units on the side. Now that sounds like something that you would want, but actually generally selecting units just by their number and their unit type gets a bit confusing. You kind of want to be more like, I want this one here directly, and that's why the disambiguation UI is quite useful for that. Other fixes, we need to make these unlock zones clearer. We need to make sure that doors are appearing, this door is not appearing, and that they're different. You can differentiate them from windows. And And also I'm looking at these exit zones. So these are the zones where you can run units out to and cause them to exit the level. I don't like how much this color clashes with the level currently. I think we need to do something more subtle, perhaps a zone, a light colored zone with icons in it or something like that. Maybe using the material system that's kind of similar to the unlock zone there. So a few little things to tidy up, but no major overhauls. Right, I'll quickly deal with some of your questions on the last video. Thanks for all the nice responses to it. Yes, we do know the website still says coming 2017. I need to get that fixed. LinkX2 says, I like the ideas you've said in this video, just as long as you can express all this and the rest of the city mode to new players in a non-overwhelming way. We're going to be doing a lot of work on tutorial, and we're really hoping now to get builds out soon and just get people a bit more involved in the game again. Everything is being roped back in together, and tutorial and getting people to learn this stuff is very important. We have a completely new in-game tutorial to get you through the mechanics of that, and the city has its own set of goals and early tutorial to get people through it. So we're really hoping that it will work. Damien W says, will the helper units actively try to kill you like the last game? Lol. Also, I like having more lore. That is half of the game. That's cool. The helper units are a lot better. So this is referring to when you're in a level, you have sort of AI side units that will come in and help you, sort of local militia or occasionally help from other factions in the story mode. They will be a lot more functional. They're not generally like game changing. They tend to sort of do more kind of annoying and getting in the way of enemies than they do winning the level for you. Frozen Sights have never really been about that. You're not sort of camping behind a huge wave of units. There's one level which is really hilarious where there are quite a lot of side units that sort of pile in the middle, and that is brilliant, and it's really exciting when it happens, but it's not what the gameplay for most of the game would be like. So you'll see when you play that. Blobka GUI says, I like the colours, merry like Christmas lights, simplicity is good style, so is music. Please keep multiplayer as awesome. Yes, multiplayer is a big feature. It's going to have all the same stuff that we had in Frozen Synapse 1. It's going to have the one turns mode, which is where you play single turns, and your turn gets played out against everyone who's played the same map. That is a really cool mode that we hope is going to get people into multiplayer, because it really is instant. You don't have to sit around waiting for people to commit turns, because it's just one turn. So that is something that we really hope is going to hook people. Is it possible to buy out a faction or eliminate it as a whole? You can take out other factions. We're looking at some of the mechanics around that at the moment, because the factions do play a part in the story, so you can't necessarily kill them off, but you will be able to eliminate them from the map game, and then possibly kill them off sort of after a certain point when you don't need them anymore. You will definitely have a decision around that. You can do things that break the story completely. If that's going to happen, the game will say, in more diegetic language, if you do this, then the main story will end, but you're still allowed to do it. So that should present you with an interesting choice. Like if you hate the story, or you're just so angry with someone from the game that you're working with, you just want to kill them, you can do that. The game story can't completely take everything into account, because that would be impossible. So it will just allow you to make that choice and define it. NeoWoof, hello, nice to hear from you again. Recommendations are like, have an option for the text size and the font on the leader text. Yeah, optional font sizes are hard to do. I'm just going to try and make a font size that's a bit bigger for some of that general text. I think we did okay with Cortex. We didn't really have any font size complaints with that game. For me, it's still a little bit small, so I will be looking into that. What are the plans for the end game? Can we grind all the city buildings if we want to? Yeah, the end game, without giving too much away, when you end the main quest line, there are a bunch of different outcomes, some of which will keep you in the game and others of which won't. So if you choose one of the outcomes from that will keep you in the game, you can absolutely just continue to let things play out. You can kill off all of the other factions. We're actually going to implement an end condition for just obliterating everything, if you do want to do that. And if you support another faction and they win, there are various means by which they can do that, then you'll get to see their ending, which won't be as dramatic and grandiose as the sort of main story endings, but it will bring the game to a conclusion. So yes, absolutely, you can sit playing the city game for effectively as long as you want, if you kind of keep everything going. NeoWolf, I had one idea. Footprints, to give something between light mode and dark. Footprints of the enemy appear on line of sight of my units. so I can hunt them in a labyrinth map. This would be fun. If that's too complicated, maybe a special power of Balakwa that snapshot the enemy location on all the map. So you do have the ghost system for Frozen Synapse 1. That's still there. So the last seen location of the enemy becomes a grey unit that you can drag around the map to sort of put where you think they will have got to by that time. So that's our system for that. We're not going to make any more changes to Dark currently. Does FS take advantage of multi-core CPU? I'm pretty sure it does. More of a question for Ian than me, but I think the AI at least does. The spelling of artifact, this is 16-bit disaster, which is a good name. The spelling of artifact was bugging the hell out of me until I looked it up and learned that it was a British version of that word. Yeah, that's right, and we're not even using that anymore. The term is going to be relics. Thanks, Steve Erdley, for your nice comment. Blue Tag, good to see the new systems. The game's looking even more filled out. Thank you. Really appreciate the positivity on this. I know that sounds kind of asinine to say, and every person on the internet is like, thanks for the positivity, guys. But seeing this stuff on the game really is motivating to us, and it makes it easier when you are criticizing some of the things we're doing. It's nice to know that the community is interested and is just generally positive about the game. So it's possible to completely destroy a faction economically without necessarily killing the leader. Is it possible to hire other factions to do this for you? Hiring other factions to do it for you was something we originally wanted to do. I don't think that's going to make it in. You will be able to ally with factions so that your goals will kind of be similar to them. Effectively, yes, you could economically cripple a faction. If you stop every one of those missions they do, every single venture that they do, and you stop them from getting relics, then they really won't be able to do that much, and they'll probably get taken out by another faction at some point. So yeah, you can absolutely do a kind of economic contain on them. Anton Masio, good to be back, thank you. Kendrick, glad you like ventures. Ventures are really cool. The only thing that I want is just to do more and more and more of them, but we have a lot of them in the game already. They really do make the map and the feel of the city a lot more interesting. Mark Neuro, hello again. Oh, sorry, Micah Klein. Glad you're happy there's another video. Mark Neuro, really good to see how this is progressing. The city game mode is so promising. You talk about having to pick through the language of how the factions frame their behavior. I imagine there will be some subtlety about how things are expressed. How are you going to approach that for non-English translations? I wouldn't say that it's super subtle. The factions are fairly declarative about their position on things. We're not doing non-English translations for launch. I'm sorry about that for all of our non-English speaking community. The game is extremely verbose. There's a lot of text in it, and the current system doesn't support localization very well. So the expense of localizing for launch is going to be too great. That is a disappointment to me. I wanted to do localization for launch this time. We're just not going to be able to do that. What we will try and do, hopefully, if the game does well in its English-speaking form, is work on localization post-launch. I know that's not what everyone wants to hear. I have to be honest with you, like, we are kind of at the limit of costs on this game, so that's kind of where we're at with it. Mafgar says synths. There are synths. Topu says, I can't wait. I'm a super fan of FS. Please tell me the time the game begins to sell. It really will be soon. It really will be this year. I know we've said that since 2016. It basically has to be this year. So something has to come out this year. And we're on a very tight schedule at the moment. One of the reasons why I haven't done so many videos is we're just going, trying to get the game into the right shape in order to get beta out and then get it launched. So it's soon. Sorry. And yes, Tulpa, you mentioned reposting videos in China. Yeah, quite happy for anyone to repost these videos. You know, I'm not monetizing these. They're just to get information out about the game. So if you want to take them and put them on your own channel and so on, that's cool. Just link back to frozensynapse2.com or to the Steam community and put my Twitter on there, Mode7Games on Twitter. And, you know, just do it. Like, if you want to help us talk about the game, then I'm totally happy with that. Many thanks for all these questions. If you have comments on the UI or general questions, put them in the comments for this video, and I will try and answer them next time. Until then, take care.